You cannot get a six-pack in 1 week, and just as I say that, people are going to X right out of this video and click onto a new video, and they'll likely be wasting more time and have unrealistic expectations. Obviously, there's many factors that depend on how fast you can get results, but more realistic expectations would be to try to decrease 0.5% of body fat every week. And then the other factor we got here when it comes to abs is ab hypertrophy, and there's not really any specific way to measure this here. So in this video, we're going to cover 6 exercises to help you out with abs hypertrophy. So let's get right into it. So for this first exercise right here, we're getting the scapula off the ground by rounding the lower back and not rounding the upper back too much and keeping that neck straight. So this right here is going to help us isolate that joint action lumbar flexion by flexing the lumbar and keeping that thoracic and cervical neutral. Now the feet are flat on the ground and the knees are not moving either. So this is really going to help us not use those hip flexors or hip adductors, so we can isolate the rectus abdominis here, and how we do that again is by isolating that joint action lumbar flexion. So for this next exercise here, the hips should move off the ground, then back on the ground, and then come off the ground and back on the ground, and just keep repeating that. The thighs and the trunk should stay at a 90-degree angle throughout the entire range of motion. And what should be causing those hips to move off the ground is the lower back rounding, so we're isolating that joint action lumbar flexion to target the rectus abdominis. Now make sure you keep that upper back and head flat on the ground the whole time. This will help us eliminate flexion of the cervical and flexion of the thoracic. Now this next exercise right here is going to be a combination of the first and second exercises. So the scapula is going to come off the ground, causing the L1, the L3 to round, while those hips will move off the ground, causing the L3 and L5 to round. To make it simple with the form, the neck, upper, and lower back should be doing the same thing as the first exercise when it comes to form, and the hips and lower back should be doing the same thing as the second exercise when it comes to form here. So again here, keep the hips and lower back at a 90-degree angle throughout the entire range of motion, and make sure when that scapula comes off that the upper back's not rounding too much and that the neck stays straight. Now this next exercise right here is going to be very similar to the first exercise. The only difference here is you're going to rotate the neck, spine, hips, and knees about 30 degrees. But otherwise, same thing here. Get the scapula off the ground and then get back on the ground. And make sure this happens due to the movement of the lumbar, not to the movement of the thoracic or cervical. So movement of the lower back, not the upper back or neck. Also make sure you keep the feet on the ground the whole time. Now for this next exercise here, you're going to rotate the neck, back, and hips about 30 degrees, and those legs should point up about 30 degrees toward the side too. And you want to only move those hips off the ground, and that's it. Do the best you can, keeping the back and neck flat on the ground while trying to maintain the rotation of the neck, back, and hips. Now right here, you're going to keep everything rotated the same way as the last exercise, and then move those hips off the ground and then back on the ground like the last exercise. And while you're moving those hips off the ground, also move the scapula off the ground too. And then while you're moving those hips back on the ground, make sure you're moving the scapula back on the ground. And you want to do all this while maintaining that 30 degrees of rotation of the neck, back, and hips. Alright, so for the last 3 exercises we just went through, you're going to do those again, but tilting to the other side. So again, the neck, the back, and the hips are going to be tilting 30 degrees to the other side. So here we're doing the one where we just move the scapula off the ground. Now this is the one where you just move those hips off the ground. Now this is the one where you'd be moving both the scapula and the hips off the ground. Same form cues as I went through before on all 3 of these. So the rectus abdominis is not an intrinsic core muscle. It's part of the global system. So you can train this muscle for hypertrophy, and you should use these intensity variables there when it comes to sets, reps, intensity, frequency, rest between sets, and tempo. So for more information on that, you can go ahead and check out my sets and reps video right there, and make sure you hit that subscribe button so you do not miss out on my upcoming videos talking more about that. Thanks for watching, and I wish the best of luck to each and every one of you at achieving your fitness goals.